Y is recorded in front of a live studio audience.
I wanted to ask you about this because I don't know if you've seen this. Are you familiar with the co-star recording? I'm sorry, the co-star record acting game?
No.
So this is amazing. So in the late 50s, early 60s, there was a record label called Records,
Mm-hmm.
Roulette Records, that was apparently mob run.
Okay.
And if you're looking for gifts, this is what I'm going to need. There's 15 of them, so just start looking around now.
Okay.
It is a record that features a popular actor from the time.
Okay.
Actually, let me just play you something.
Make a bargain with you. Now, you do just what I say.
Can you hear
and
this?
After the game, I will explain the entire proceedings to you. Really? Watch me. Now, every time you see me get excited, every time I jump up and yell, "Come on, John!" and keep yelling that until I sit down. Agreed? You keep yelling that. You understand?
Hilarious.
I don't know if you've noticed something.
Any minute. No, no! No, no! It's another home run. No, 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 no. Go get it, Willie! Go get it, Willie!
Okay, first off, the fact that Tallulah Bankhead is at a baseball game is amazing. And it sounds like an improv game.
Yes.
So, but these are records that featured actors. They would come with a script, and they would also come with spaces in on the
Yeah.
record.
Well, of course, you can't act without them.
Exactly. So you can act alongside Pearl Bailey, Vincent Price, Tallulah Bankhead, Basil Rathbone, Paulette Goddard, Fernando Lamas, George Raft, which is the one I'm really trying to find a copy of, and Don Amici.
Amazing.
And so these are not available online. I haven't found them anywhere. So this is almost as good, I think, as my Sing Along with the Four Roses Society record that I have,
Yes, you almost as good, not quite.
because I do love that record. But the fact that there's 15 of these,
I mean, it's amazing. The fact that we didn't know about them, the fact that I didn't grow up doing this is bizarre to me.
if you had a Tallulah Bankhead record, you would be insufferable now.
Oh, it would be amazing. So great.
It would be so annoying for everybody.
I
It would
know,
just
it would
be
be wonderful.
you and Arlene Dahl doing scenes from Casablanca would be a
Yes,
lot.
it would be a lot, but it would be fantastic.
I'm just imagining like a 9-year-old you
You're
telling
almost.
Rick you'll always have Paris.
That would have happened, and I would
Oh
have
my
been.
God. Oh. Yeah, or you could be doing scenes from Peyton Place with Paulette Goddard.
I'd probably do that at 9 too.
Yeah, and I don't know why exactly Tallulah Bankhead is at a baseball game. I don't remember any of her major
I
roles,
know.
including The Sweet Science.
I don't know what that was from.
Part of me feels like she would really get into it with the beer and the yelling at people.
Definitely.
But then part of me feels like it seems like it'd be a too sticky an environment for her.
Yeah, maybe she's in a box. They
But
have,
at that time, maybe they did. But at that time, you could sit outside and smoke and drink at
right.
like 2 in the afternoon
She'd probably be sitting in the dugout smoking and drinking with the players.
with like a dip in. She'd be got
Totally.
a chew going.
Completely.
Yeah.
Wearing just a jersey.
Oh my God, that's the animated series we need.
Yes.
What was the SNL that Kristen Wiig had? What was is it? Was it Kristen Wiig? Where it was like Anne Margaret throwing out a piece of paper,
I don't remember that one.
and it was just or like Liza Minnelli walking into against the wind, and it was like the drum beat and everything that was going, and it was very. But this should be an animated series.
Yes, it should.
Tallulah Bankhead goes to the butcher.
I mean, it'd be amazing.
Tallulah Bankhead. I was going to say does her laundry. Some picks up her laundry. She's not doing any laundry.
No.
Yeah, put that on our list of things to do.
I mean, right? It would be amazing.
Connect More, Sauna Talk, the Tallulah Bankhead animated series.
Yes.
This is Why, with your hosts, Heidi Hedquist and Luke Poling.
How did you get into, obviously you're no longer doing the physical death tours, but how did you start in that part of the industry, if you will?
Well, the industry, I just on a fluke in the 80s, some friends of mine, we were in Chicago, we were in a bar and we were sort of dared each other to do what we've always wanted to do. And within, I don't know, 6 hours, all of us were on a plane to LA because all I ever wanted to do was a Stars Homes tour. So none of us had been there before. And we took this tour and it was great. But then we went to Forest Lawn and I saw Liberace's grave. And it was like, wait a second, there's something that clicked there because, there he is. And here I am. I've always been attracted to weird stuff, and there was a company out in LA called Graveline Tours, the original Graveline Tours. It started in '87. It was a hearse-driven tour through the deaths and scandals of Hollywood, operated by my buddy Greg Smith, and that was my goal. That's all I wanted to do after that. When I heard about Graveline, it's like that's exactly it. It hits every single button because I've always been interested in the sort of, I guess, dark side. I was exposed to it when I was a kid. We lived in an intersection in Detroit where people were killed fairly often, and it became common to, with this. I'm not, and then I knew people that were murdered. So it was odd. I would go to the places where they were murdered. And I'm not saying that to be, ooh, I'm not, it's just the way it was. I didn't know any different. So things like that always attracted to me. I was like, against the grain. People say, don't go to cemeteries. That's the first place I went, go to see where people I know were murdered. I wanted to see, that was, it clicks for me. I don't know. It's history, I suppose.
Makes sense, actually. It does. I'm from Detroit too, by the way.
Oh, where?
Here we go.
I know, I'm sorry. I live in the suburbs, but I spent a lot of time working in Detroit. My family's buried at Woodlawn.
Oh yeah, yeah. God, it's a great cemetery.
Oh my gosh, it's the best cemetery. And I will tell you that my family is very Victorian about it. We go every Memorial weekend with the kids and we clean the graves and they talk to other people that they don't know who they are. They see if they're veterans. Like we're very into celebrating death and being out for the day, and they have ice cream and it's the best day ever. So
I love going just through cemeteries like Woodlawn where there's a lot of prominent people and you see, well, that name sounds familiar. You start looking them up while you're there, and it's really like some kind of bizarre game, but it's wonderful.
it's wonderful. Highgate in London is my favorite place to do that too. It's unreal.
Yeah.
You just trace it down the whole line and just what the different customs are and just the different monuments. So yes, so you continue to be, we're totally tracking with, so it's not weird to us.
Okay, good.
And there's something, I think, about going to the cemetery and seeing that person's headstone and sort of, famous or not, kind of sparing them a thought in the day. To kind of just go like, I am thinking about this person, I'm remembering this person. In some way, you're keeping their memory alive, their spirit alive of, I looked at their date of birth, I looked at their date of death, and just had a moment going like, I wonder what they were like.
Yeah. Well, somebody said there's the story in the dash.
Yeah.
There's this year, there's that year, and everything in between is the interesting stuff. And also, there's something I say, and it's not my saying. I didn't make it up. I think I saw it for the first time at the when I went to the King Tut exhibit, and it was saying, "Speak their names, and they shall live again." And it's like, well, there you are. This is it. They're not forgot. They say you die two times. The first time you die is when you physically die. The second time is when someone speaks your name for the last time. And don't let that happen.
I know.
Well, and one of the things you're kind of considered an expert on, as far as locations and everything else, is the Tate LaBianca murders, which is something that is so fascinating to so many people. How did you, and I was watching your video earlier of you trying to find kind of where's Spawn Ranch? What are we here? What is there? So it's been something that you've been fascinated by for a while then.
Yeah, I've always gravitated towards things I probably shouldn't, and I don't mean that like as in forbidden, just sort of, I don't know, something people don't do. And I go, yeah, that's what I want to do. When I saw the film Helter Skelter, that was in 1974. I was in Detroit, And it was such a terrifying image. It burned into my brain that they made Manson into this creepy guy, and I thought he was going to come crawling up the side of my house and crawl inside my windows. So it terrified me. Therefore, click, that's where I gravitate. And when I moved to LA to do the Grave Line tour in the early 90s, I had the book Helter Skelter, and this time I went through it with a highlighter because Helter Skelter is a document of the crime. And so all the addresses, and I literally had a map on my wall back when we needed maps, and I put pins with, different locations in them and mapping out sort of how to see them. And that's how I started my own tour, was literally pins in a map. I started Dearly Departed tours in 2004. And that was my company. And I had the regular Deaths and Scandals tour. It was also where you know, Last Supper locations and silly things too. But the Helter Skelter tour was solely based on the Tate LaBianca murders. And it was, they went unsolved for 3 months, and people, literally crawled in someone's windows while they were, one was sleeping on the bed and or reading a book, and within 30 minutes was on the front lawn with 28 stab wounds. It was unspeakable. It was terrifying, and it was unsolved for 3 months. So it could have happened. People were locking their doors for the first time, and it was terrifying, a terrifying time. Therefore, there I am. I'm all over it.
What was it like to go to these places? Because buildings and homes have since been torn down, remodeled, etc. But when you started doing this, when you first arrived in LA, what was the feeling of being at these places where, you know, inarguably really terrible things happened?
Yeah. Well, there were a few books that were written back then that focused on odd things like that. And at the beginning, when I started visiting LA, and I really didn't have any friends here yet or there, I would visit where the Tate House was, and that was one of those things where you're looking around and you're whispering, and and it was like it's a very reverential place, and it's also very scary if you're out there on your own, knowing what happened then. I'm quite desensitized to it now. I still have respect in my mind. I still remember the victims when I'm up there, but it's like, oh yeah, I'm just hop up there, and then I forget how intense of a situation that was sometimes. And then I try to remind myself all the time of those people, of what happened up there. I'm very victim oriented. I've always been, I kind of don't care a whole lot about the murderers, sort of interested, but because of they're part of the case. But I'm really, it's the victims I sort of focused on, and the terror and that's with everything. I try to be really victim oriented, focused.
Is there a place that you still go that doesn't have to be a morbid place, but a place that you still go either on the tour, that you visit that maybe isn't on the tour yet, or isn't on the, wasn't on the tour, that you still get that feeling of just either mystery, or there's something here, or there's still
Mhm.
here, any of those things? Any place that still stands out?
When the way I designed my tour was I used audio clips, I used video clips, I used, music. So, for instance, when we passed the hotel where Janis Joplin died in room 105 of the Highland Gardens Hotel, you can point that out. But if you're listening to Janis singing and you realize that happened, that ended right there, and you could see in the room, that was really, it's quite moving. When I first started the tour, the Ambassador Hotel still existed, and I would park. It was empty. It's been empty since the 80s, but the building was still there. And there is audio that of the recording of the shooting, and that was caught by a news reporter. And I would park, and we'd be looking at it and listening to that audio. It's like I still get chills thinking about it. Now, in the Tate LaBianca tour, the Helter Skelter tour, I became friends with the woman who was in prison with Susan Atkins, who she confessed to. I interviewed the young man who found the gun. So when we go up to the place where the gun was found, this guy comes on audio and saying, "Oh, we were playing on the hill. I was 10 years old and I found the gun there." And that's what brings it home. That's like these are real people. And going to Jay Sebring's salon, and showing the pictures of Jay in front of his salon, and then and there you are. It's right there. That there's no disputing it, and that's the magic moment for me. It's actually almost time travel, and and Tarantino made that happen.
And that's something we definitely want to get to. But to kind of go through the timeline, you were doing the tours, everything was going well, and then, like a lot of businesses, the pandemic hits, and suddenly getting on a bus with a bunch of strangers does not sound like a great idea. So you kind of pivot, go online, and go on YouTube. And what sort of was LA's loss was everybody else's gain, because now anyone in the world can see this stuff, can hear your stories, your tales, and what you know about these things. Is there anything in particular in doing this that surprised you, where you're like, people are really into this? Or is it's the Manson stuff, it is, James Dean, it is, Jayne Mansfield, which is actually how I think one of the ways I found you was like, what happened to Jayne Mansfield's car? Where is that?
It's out back.
Yeah, exactly, exactly.
Well, it surprised when I started my business. Well, actually, when Greg started Graveline in the '80s, it gave people permission to look at these things and not be ashamed of it. Greg said had an analogy. It's like when he started, people were still buying their true crime magazines and putting it at the back of their grocery bags. And now there are, 24-hour cable networks, dozens of them featuring, true crime. I don't go to sleep unless I watch Forensic Files. I'm that's what I hear a lot.
Right.
So when I opened my museum, and the demographic there really is none. People just really kind, nice people that had this interest and weren't able to explore that, didn't feel right exploring that.
And so this gives them the opportunity to do that and to kind of
Yeah.
see that and get that information, so they just know more about it.
And preservation in an odd way, because when the Ambassador Hotel was taken away, when it was torn down, I've got bricks from it. My museum was filled with these odd artifacts. And I thought, oh, this is just silly stuff. And people go, no, no, this isn't silly. This is important. I mean, you can't take what we do that seriously, but we take what we do seriously. Because who
Right.
wants to see, Carrie Fisher's cigarette butt? I think it's hilarious, but and actually so does Carrie's brother when I told him I had it. But it's just, I love celebrities. I love famous people, the people I know from my era and beforehand. And it's my love letter back to them, I suppose. They're not forgot. They're not forgot.
Right.
S- So what is in the museum on top of Carrie Fisher's cigarette butt and Jayne Mansfield's car?
Mae West's teeth, Bob
Fantastic.
Hope's dictaphone, I have pieces of Patsy Cline's airplane, piece of John Denver's airplane, piece of the Hindenburg. So it's not just it's serious stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There are. I remember one time I was doing a speaking engagement in Galveston, and I was on the plane, and I thought, oh my God, I'm on a plane with Patsy Cline's airplane and John Denver's airplane, and then Hindenburg. I said, there's some some weird,
I
but
couldn't imagine getting affected.
and also I have Sharon Tate's eyelashes, and I have. I've always been fascinated with junk, with people you wouldn't even think twice about it, but it makes these people regular people too. I have
Hmm.
Doris Tate's meat cleaver. I mean, not Doris Tate, Doris Roberts' meat cleaver. Junk. It's just silly stuff. I have the door from the hotel room the Divine died in. I have Ava Gabor's. What do I have of Ava? I have tons of Zsa Zsa Gabor stuff, tons of Zsa Zsa Gabor stuff because she had an estate sale. So I went up there and bought the garbage no one else wanted, Costco wine glasses and things, but and that's funny, you know what I mean? I have the Shirley Temple, the drink, remember, the drink, the Shirley Temple,
Hmm.
and the waiter saved it, gave her Shirley Temple her own drink, and she goes, "I'm not going to drink that. I'll get diabetes." And he saved it, so and I got it now. Shirley Temple's rejected Shirley Temple.
Perfection. And
That's
it is,
it's
I think that is just what keeps people alive eternally. And you might think it's like people might think it's nothing, but then when they see it, they don't. Like if you actually see Shirley Temple's rejected Shirley Temple, it's funny, but it's also like this was in her presence. This was,
Yes,
you
yes,
know,
yeah. Yeah, I have the vodka bottle. B. Arthur drank like three-quarters of it in like 10 minutes. Yeah.
but I love that. I love
And one
that.
time Dean Martin bought me a beer and I saved the beer bottle. It's like, it's
yeah,
Oh,
just, I love that. I
brilliant.
love that.
yeah. And I was gonna say, where do you get this stuff apart from Dino buying you a beverage?
Well, the Shirley Temple I got from a guy who was her assistant, he got it from the waiter, saved it in a weird way. A lot of times it's me scrambling over fences. The Zsa Zsa Gabor stuff is I went up to her house and got it. Mae West's teeth were held in an auction, but they wouldn't touch the teeth because they thought it was too gross. So they came to me and go, "Do you want these?" And I go, "Yeah, of course I want them."
Let's go to this creepy
So
guy. He'll want it.
I mean, the thing is,
and a
lot
lot
of
of times
that-
people have like one thing and they
right.
don't know what to do with it. A guy sent me the other day a string from the ukulele that Tiny Tim was playing when he had his heart attack. And it's like, of course I'll take that.
Of
It's
course.
it's such a weird bit of history, and I just collect weirdo things.
No, when the Don Rickles estate went up for auction, we were coveting his copy of the Kama Sutra, and we wanted to see if we
We
could.
want it so bad.
Did you
But
get it?
No.
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 They need
I'm
us
I'm gonna show you something. It's like right here.
Oh, perfect. We love show and tell.
to do.
This is literally Don Rickles' fan.
Amazing.
I
I
got it
love
from his from the auction.
Yeah, I
Oh,
remember that being on there. Yes, that's
It's just, but isn't that ridiculous? I mean,
so
it's so
great.
silly, but it's so wonderful.
yeah.
He really was a man who used his fan. That's the thing. It's like Mae West teeth, like the words that came out of that woman's mouth, like those teeth are vital for that.
Yeah.
And this was like you know that Don Rickles needed a fan. You
And
just
you know,
know.
Bob Hope used his dictaphone constantly.
Yes.
Like that's
Yeah, and then there's history. That's the part of history people don't usually think about. Yeah, and yeah, that's sort of the fun of it. And then the Jayne Mansfield car became available, and that became the sort of the centerpiece of the museum because that's quite sobering, when you
yeah.
see something like that. And when I was a kid, I remember seeing pictures of it and just fascinated by it. And then to have it, and then our storage was behind it. You know what I mean? So I'm getting something out of storage. I'm leaning on the car to do it. It's like, is this bizarre or what? It's strange, but to have that car and to be in the shape that it's in, much like it was the night of the accident, it's not been restored. It looks just the way it did. Was still has glass, on the windshield and on the floor and stuff. And we're the sixth owner. Everyone who's had it wanted to preserve it, but didn't know what to do with it because it's a 20-foot by 8-foot piece of, twisted metal that can't roll. It has to be dragged everywhere. And in the 11 years we've owned it, it's only been on display for 3 of those years. But I'm really trying to open something here in Palm Springs now because they have a Hollywood history. And we travel all over the country to find it, think about opening our museum somewhere. But this is really where people are going to know who Jayne Mansfield was and Bob Hope and people like that. It's got the old Hollywood and Dean Martin. All these people had houses here, so it has that history.
It's nothing but lore there. Everything is just attachment to somebody of the eras. And yeah, that's perfect.
Yeah, we love it. We love it here. It's a little hot, but we love it here.
Just remember how cold it gets in Detroit. Don't
We had 126 last year. Was
Oh,
it's
Sounds
a bit toasty, but
yeah.
we can do it like a house swap, like, and I'll go out during the hot days.
I love Detroit. I love Detroit. I can't believe what's happening to Detroit. I've never in my lifetime thought we'd see that. I grew up on the east side, sort of Chalmers area.
Yeah, I used
And
to sell houses over there. I sold some pretty haunted houses
yeah,
back in the day. But yeah, I know that area well. So,
haunted houses.
well, like with a lot of, I mean, they felt haunted. I guess there's a lot of history there. I did a lot of stuff in Boston Edison, and then I did a lot of stuff over in the Chalmers area. And there were a couple like multi-units that I was working with that had definitely had some things go down there.
Yeah, I mean, you can't deny those feelings when they happen. They don't come from nowhere.
Nope. And there were very strange, seemingly body fluids on floors and things like that that looked pretty suspect. But yeah, it was fascinating. It's a fascinating part of town. There's a lot of history over there.
I've been in 2 places that have been really, I've seen ghosts before. I mean, I'm not like, I don't, 99% of the time, I'm like, yeah, whatever, but there's only been a couple of times. I was in the Wonderland house, where the Wonderland murders happened in the Cecil Hotel. And both of those times it was a panic that I have to get out of here right now. And that's very rare for something like that. I get uncomfortable at times, but I don't, but that was straight up panic.
Yeah, everybody says that about the Cecil Hotel. That
Yeah,
it's
there's too much. That's like portal business. You know what I mean?
right. Like you don't have to get out.
Yeah, I mean, I'm laughing, but no, too many awful, awful things have happened there for it to be, you know, just a hotel.
Right. Agreed.
And does that sort of feeling, the vibe, the juju, whatever you want to call it, does that do you feel that transfer down through some of these items? You know,
Yes.
obviously the Mansfield car, because of its condition, even is just like that's it. There it is.
We
Are there any
had,
of these things you don't want to take into your own house,
oh
and
God,
or
yes.
you don't want to be around with at night?
There were times when, back in the early days say in the 80s, when I was in my early, I don't know, say early 30s or something like that, I wrote people like John Wayne Gacy, because I was curious. I heard of these old paintings. I thought, well, that's really an odd thing. And I got a letter back from him and I bought a painting from him. Now, I wouldn't do that now. I wouldn't consider doing that now because my attitude has changed. But I didn't want that in my house anymore. So I actually gave it to someone. So somebody sent me some dirt from Ed Gein's grave. Yeah, I'm like, okay, don't need that in the house, but I'll display it when the time comes. So it's my own blurry line that,
Hmm.
and I know when it's crossed. But these items do have energy. When I used to have them in my house before I opened my museum, I had a lot of things in my house still, and it was obvious that there were things attached to them, just the feeling. But I feel like now they understand, if you believe in that kind of thing, they understand what we're doing.
Mhm.
And it may not be the way they want to be remembered, but they certainly are remembered. There's this one instance it's probably the most weirdest thing. Troy and I, my husband, we went to New Orleans, the path that Jayne Mansfield drove when she was killed. And we rang in the new year at that actual location. We gave a toast with cranberry juice or whatever it was to Jane. And we, had our toast and we threw some out to where the car landed. And we got in the car, and within 5 minutes, the girl can't help it, but Little Richard came on the radio. And it's like, have you ever heard that song on the radio ever, ever, ever? So there was a very distinct hello.
Yeah,
And I felt that was a good thing because,
that's beautiful.
I love that. So yeah, there are I think that they're happy that they're remembered. May not be the wannabe, but again, say their names.
Right. Absolutely. I
What
love
does your
that.
husband make of all of this? Like, obviously, you said like he goes with you on the Jane Mansfield trip. Is it humoring you, or is it
I-
equally intrigued
Troy
by
went to
them?
mortuary school, and Troy
Oh,
assisted with autopsies at the LA County coroner. We just happened to meet.
so you can't
Uh,
throw this guy, basically, is what you're saying.
there are times when I have to ask him to stop talking about the things he talks about because I can deal with the emotional stuff, and we both love that. But Troy doesn't mind literally diving into the really, you know
The stuff.
body parts
Yeah.
and and that kind of stuff. And that's where I gotta kind of go, now I can't do that. So we balance each other out.
Right. I love it.
That's what you need with something like this.
Me too. But I feel like, we keep referencing like, oh, it's different, it's weird, people think it's weird. But I feel like when I talk to either through the people we talk to on the show or people I just meet in my day-to-day life, I would imagine the people that have come through in the past or that watch the stuff online, they're from all walks of life, people that you would never expect to be into the darker side of things if you first met them. Or
Mhm.
is it weirdos like us? Not so weird.
Well, my audience are, well, they're not going to come to me because they don't like me. Do you know what I mean? So
Right. Of
there
course.
are those who do, but they're very, very few by comparison. So,
Yeah.
and then YouTube's great because you can do it in the privacy of your own home. Nobody knows. And so you can look at these things with genuine curiosity. And the way I present things too is different because I'm really respectful. I won't avoid a cheap joke,
You're
and my
human. Let's be
delivery
honest. Yeah.
and my delivery is, I guess, friendly enough that that people respond to it, and they, I don't try to sound morose, and I don't wear black and put on, dye my hair. Well, obviously it can't, but do you know what I mean? It's not. I'm not
Hmm.
trying to present myself in any other way that I am, and people respond to that. And my curiosities are theirs. Or they go, this is really weird, and that's something that'll prompt me too. Where like I'm working on a story right now about Sammy Davis Jr. And did you know that Sammy Davis Jr. was exhumed shortly after he was buried because he died broke? So his wife had him exhumed and removed his jewelry and had him reburied and then auctioned off the jewelry. It's like that's
Wow.
interesting to me.
Yeah.
That is like gold to me because that's like what a weird story.
Yeah.
That's one of those. The one that always weirded me out was Sam Cooke and his wife. I think was their first child,
Mm. In the pool?
drowned. Yeah,
Yeah.
and then they had another child and gave that child the exact same name. That just
I didn't know that, but
there's
that's out
something.
there.
It's something about or with was it Donny Hathaway? I can't remember, but it was something where it was just like, why are you you know bringing that name back in that way seems a very odd way to pay
It's
tribute,
yeah,
but
kind of disrespectful. Well, in my opinion, who knows what they're thinking about?
right.
But it's like Audrey too, you know?
Yeah,
Totally.
exactly.
Yes.
Uh,
Exactly.
Yeah, it's different.
and so one of the other things you mentioned early on was the fact that your work with Tarantino in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood and the Manson La Bianca stuff. How did that come about?
Well, probably, I don't even know how many years ago now, we did a documentary, my buddy Mike Dorsey and I called The 6 Degrees of Helter Skelter, and it was a geographic retelling of the murders. It wasn't like, how could this have happened? Who are these people? The killers, rather. And we just went to where everything happened, where they threw the clothes off the cliff, where they hosed off in the driveway. And it's been out for 15 years or something like that. And then Tarantino's office called me and said Tarantino wants to meet with you. And I was like, okay, okay. I figured I go to the
Sure.
office and there'd be 100 people and he might be in the room. And there were, about 20 people and I got to meet a lot of them. And they said, well, you want to go and meet QT? And I'm like, well, sure. So we went to his office and my documentary was on his desk, and he said, "This, I love this. I love this. This is perfect." And they shut the door, and it was him and I for about an hour or two, talking just about the logistics of the case. And my friends happen to own J.C. Brings Home up in Benedict Canyon, so they were interested in that. So I took them out, and we went, location scouting, I guess you could say,
Hmm.
and they ended up using the house. It hasn't been used in the final production, but he got it. And I understood him. I had a bottle of High Karate cologne in my collection, and when I took them out locations, because he said I want to bring 1969 back to LA, and I gave him that as like a good luck, and he got that totally. He understood it totally. And then I met Mark Lindsay a few years earlier, and I told Quentin that, Mark Lindsay told me that two songs were written on the piano that was in the murder location. The house was rented, fully furnished. So that piano that was in the room where the murders took place, the echoes of that murder took place where these pop songs by Paul Revere and the Raiders were written. And it's like that kind of weird stuff. And that was exactly what Tarantino wanted. And it was so much fun. And what he said is he wants to bring 1969 back to LA. And I was in the van, and Barbara Ling, who was the production designer, was in the van. I go, "Oh, you mean like in the Doors movie?" And Barbara Ling goes, "Yeah, I did that."
Hmm.
It was magic because he brought it back. He literally brought it back. There was no CGI. The billboards were brought back. The movie theaters were brought back with plastic letters on the marquees and the everyone walking in every car, and it was magic. It was magic because it was time travel literally to my favorite time. And to watch those people as living people get out of Abigail Folger's, Yellow Maverick and at the El Coyote and walk into that restaurant with smiles on their faces. And it's like, oh, wow, it was just like nothing else. It was the perfect way to leave Los Angeles because I couldn't get any better. Could not get any better than that.
So no involvement on the David Fincher, Cliff Booth film.
No, I'm very oriented to 1969 in that period.
Hmm.
He wanted to know where the book that Abigail Folger was reading in bed when she was, but just before she was murdered. That kind of that, and that's my thing, and that's what he liked. So, but no, I don't know much more after that about about
Hmm.
Los Angeles so much.
So what was she reading?
Oh, Madame Bovary.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Interesting.
it's in the last thing people do. It's like I don't know. I wouldn't when people call them ghost clothes, you know, you're wearing whatever you're wearing when you die are your ghost clothes. And
Right.
I think that's such an interesting concept. And then what they put on, what you put on that morning, who knew? You know, who knew this is going to be the last time I ever dress myself and this is the shirt I'm going to choose. And I find
Right.
that really kind of profound in a just sort of trivia way, I guess.
It makes you want to pay attention to your wardrobe every day, no matter how comfortable
Yeah.
you
Wear
are.
clean underwear.
Yes.
Yeah.
You could be stuck in that for eternity.
Do you ever get bored by it? Are you just like, "Ugh, another murder, another ritual suicide?
You know, my excitement comes from other people being excited by it. It's like I could rattle off everything that happened those 2 nights in 1969, like a soup label. You know, I could do that. But I was doing it every week and taking 15 people at a time. And it wasn't just that. You know, we would talk, it was the Sunset Strip. You know, we talk about Ben Frank's restaurant where, you know, where John Lennon and Bob Dylan used to eat after the Whiskey A Go Go. And you talk about the Monkees and the Monkees, you know, Charles Manson supposedly auditioned to be in the Monkees, which isn't true, but yeah, or going to the Whiskey A Go Go. Everyone loves the whiskey. Talk about Sonny and Cher and the Carpenters. And then there's the door that the owner kicked Manson out of. I mean, I get excited by it, but be able to share these stories and their excitement by it. That's magic. So I do love that. I really do. Sometimes what I do now is sort of more work, the YouTube stuff, because I'll go out and shoot a lot of video and I sit at my desk and do these things. So I don't get the instant gratification of being able to show people in person, but it's still fun to share that information, like the Sammy Davis Jr. thing, you know, and or the Don Rickles fan, you know, it's silly. But not. It's not. I just wish I could experience it more in person. I do.
But it's a nice, like I said, like a nice way to reach more people and share this fascination and the knowledge that you have of this stuff that is clearly almost encyclopedic of here's that, there's this, that's what that was, here's who had this.
Yeah, well,
Really
the stuff you
fascinating.
didn't know about the stuff you thought you knew everything about. That's sort of
Hmm.
what I do. I'm not well, take LaBianca stuff aside. I know a little about a lot. And the little that I gravitate towards are usually snippets, just weird snippets. And like the Sammy Davis Jr. thing, yeah, Sammy Davis Jr. was an interesting guy, but that is what made me go, no, this needs a feature. You know, this definitely needs to be featured. Right now, I'm friends with Todd Fisher and his wife Kat Fisher, and they live in Vegas. Carrie's sister, I mean, Carrie Fisher was his sister. Debbie Reynolds was his mom. And Debbie Reynolds was in a movie called The Singing Nun, which I loved. It was, you know, and based on the Belgian nun who made that song Dominique. It was a hit, and then Debbie did the movie and had a hit with that song in English. But the thing that I find really interesting is that nun was the other convent, the other people in the convent, they hated her. They didn't like her at all. They forced her out. They were bullying her, and they kept the residuals. And she died, and she was a lesbian, but would not act on that. She had a partner. They lived together, but it wasn't a physical relationship for like 40 years. They had an altar in their house. You know, they were staying true to their vows, even though they quit the church because they were bullying her. So the singing nun was a lesbian and committed suicide with her lesbian lover. This happy, happy song, you know, and I'll go to
Right.
Todd's and he'll let me use Debbie's guitar from the Singing Nun. And that's like putting it all together. What a fascinating story. And then here's this artifact. And it just, but I love those kinds of stories because they're little known stories about things we know so much about or think we do.
For more information on Scott, check out his website, dearlydepartedtours.com. And while he's no longer giving tours, he's still posting incredibly fascinating stuff on YouTube. You can find him at YouTube at Dearly Departed Tours.
Nigel, is that you? Are you here, Nigel?